The game's definitely struggling in a lot of ways with drawing younger audience and stuff like that. And some of the things they're struggling with are pace of play, pitching changes, the adaptation of new technology and how that influences it. And then even people as far as like Trevor Bauer, Cincinnati Reds pitcher, went as far to blame the broadcasters for part of baseball struggling. How do you respond to that? And what do you think is the biggest problem in baseball right now?
I'm going to respond to what Trevor Bauer said first. Trevor Bauer was asked the question, what's the biggest problem with baseball today?
Yes.
And his answer was 2 words, the announcers.
So if there's one thing that you could change about the game right now, it would be what?
The announcers.
Oh.
Yep.
And my response to what Trevor Bauer was is that nobody was better qualified to judge announcers because in most starts he was out of the game by the 3rd or 4th or 5th inning. Mm-hmm. So he had a chance to sit in the clubhouse and listen. He had his rear end handed to him more often than not. I think his comment was completely irresponsible. I think it was completely ridiculous. He's too intelligent a guy to think that the biggest problem confronting the game of baseball today is the announcers. Mm-hmm. This game has a multitude of problems, as you touched on. I think the biggest single problem this game has now is trying to figure out a way to get young people back involved in the game again. I mean, when I was a kid, we used to go out in the summertime and play ball from 9 o'clock in the morning until our mom called us in to have dinner. And maybe we would eat lunch and maybe we wouldn't. You don't have that anymore. There's so much competition with other sports. Soccer, of course, has been around forever. Lacrosse is the fastest growing amateur sport in this country right now. And so baseball has that's a major problem that they are dealing with in an ongoing nature. And I don't know that they even have a solution for how they're going to turn it around, but they're spending a lot of time. The analytics part of the game, I think there's some of that that's very, very valid. I think there's some that's very invalid. But I think it's something that's come to the game and will always be around. I think the teams that are going to be the most successful are those who have a proper balance between analytics and scouting, actual visionary scouting, guys that have devoted their lives to the game of baseball, going to high school fields, going to college fields, looking at guys that can play, and then having to put their reputation on the line by saying, yeah, you need to draft this kid here or he's not going to be able to make the grade. I think the proper balance between the two are the teams that are the most successful. I think a team that in this day and age that go 80, 85% scouting and 15% analytics are going to be left in the starting blocks as opposed to a team that goes maybe 55-45 or 65-35. But analytics are here, like it or not. So I think essentially analytics has created a major change in the game today with exit velocities and all that type of thing and wins above replacement. You almost have to have a Phi Beta Kappa key from college to understand some of what seems to be numerical numbers and such as that to differentiate one analytic from the other.
And just going back to what Bauer said, Trevor Bauer does happen to have more influence than most Major League Baseball players. He's in the hundred thousands of Twitter followers. He's been getting paid $17.5 million. He's influential in the Driveline program. Can you completely ignore what he said, or as a broadcaster, do you have to adjust and at least listen to what he's trying to say?
It would be a cold day down under when I would take what he said about announcers seriously. I would say to him, that's like me commenting about pitching. Uh-huh. He doesn't know anything about broadcasting. The only thing he knows about broadcasting is he can't do it. So I don't pay any attention. I don't care if he has 3 million followers. He has no idea what he's talking about. And it would have been a much better situation had he been more precise when he said the announcers. If he were talking about network announcers, he were talking about Joe Buck and John Smoltz and people like that, or if he were talking about Marty Brennaman and Jeff Brantley, or guys on a local level like I was. But in terms of paying attention to what Trevor Bauer says about announcers, I don't give it a second thought, and I don't think anybody else in my fraternity does the same.
Yeah.